Okay, so the recording is happening. Did you guys get
Yep,
a
can see
message?
that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I am going to share my screen now.
So, Paolo, maybe I'll just take a moment to introduce you, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Sure. Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Welcome everybody to the second of our shared faculty research seminars. We're very lucky today to have my good friend Paolo Soncini. And I'm not just saying that he is actually my good friend. We've had beers and stuff together in the past. So he is actually really my good friend. And we're delighted to have him here today. Paolo is part of our research development team, and a reasonably new addition to our TU Dublin research support team. Paolo, I think, how long are you with us now?
Yeah, that's it. So since September.
Oh, since September.
September
So
last year. Yeah.
reasonably new.
Yeah.
And Paolo knows everything that there is to know about funding, EU funding. He's going to be modest now and say he doesn't, but he actually is really amazing about the amount he knows. So I'm not going to do him justice or embarrass him anymore. I think I'll just hand over to him. So Paolo, please take it away.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, PJ. So hi everyone. My name is Paolo Soncini. I have been in ADAPT since 2018. There was a gap there in 2023. I left, went somewhere else, and then came back again now in September last year. I'm a research development officer in the team. I used to do pre and post award. So pre-award is like writing the proposals, and post-award is actually managing it. But now in this, let's call it second season in ADAPT, I'm mostly doing pre-award support now. Okay. So let me just share my screen here, and then can you all see my screen there?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put it in slideshow. There you go. Okay, so first of all, as part of ADAPT and the JEDI committee, the Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, we have some guidelines. So treat colleagues with respect, create culture of inclusion, promote equality and diversity, and use language to connect, not create barriers. So let's please use that across the entire meeting. In terms of agenda, what I am going to do here today is I'm going to talk about the European programs. I'm going to describe their admissibility, eligibility, what types of actions we have available. When I say action, please understand projects. Funding rates, eligible cost, how to participate. There are a few opportunities and different options for you to participate. Upcoming calls. Obviously, the upcoming calls are not as in all of them. It's just a few of them that I've picked up from the programs. And then I'm going to discuss the ADAPT Center, the research development team support, and upcoming info sessions and trainings that we have available now. So first of all, to start European programs, there are plenty of programs available out there. Each program has a different objective. I've picked up a few of them, which are the ones that are more relevant to ADAPT and perhaps, computer science. That's, the remit of the center. So the first one is Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is the biggest, it's the key funding program for R&D in Europe, and they have available 93.5 billion euro. They fund research across all areas of application, and this is the program that I am actually going to focus on in the following slides. The Digital Europe Work Program focuses on digital technology, so we're talking artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, we're talking advanced digital skills, and they have 8.1 billion. Connecting Europe Facility funds digital infrastructures. So it funds anything from infrastructure, logistics, and there is 1.5 billion in funding there available within this program. Erasmus is the one that supports education, training, youth, and sports, and it's 26.2 billion available. As I mentioned, I'm going to start talking mostly about Horizon Europe, but you will see that because Horizon Europe is the biggest program, the other programs, which are a bit smaller, they tend to follow the same rules in terms of admissibility, eligibility, and so on. Obviously, there might be some differences across the programs, but most of them tend to follow the same rules as Horizon Europe. So before I continue with the slides, let me go back here a little bit. You will receive this. You'll see that there's a link here. So this is where you go when you try to figure out how European Commission funding works. So can you see my Google Chrome here? A web page. Yeah. Okay. So in this page here, so you go here, funding, in this tab, you will see a list of European programs that are available to everybody in Europe. So here you have Connecting Europe Facility that I mentioned, Creative Europe, Erasmus, EU for Health. So this is specifically for health research. There's another one for renewable energies and so on. So you can see here that the list is huge. Right. So if you have some time later and you want to have a look and see what each of the programs fund, please go ahead. If you click here, continue here on the funding, if you click on call for proposals, they're going to bring you, the system is going to bring you to this page. This is where you go to, check the environment. And this one has every single one of the programs. So it's not just Horizon Europe. What you do here is obviously you're going to check 21, 2027 for you to see the open calls. But obviously, if you want to check calls from the past, you can do that as well. You choose here the program. There's the list of programs and the number of calls available in each of them. Then you can also select a given call if you want. And then you can also select the status, whether it's forthcoming, open for submission, and closed. Once you enter in a given call, you're going to have all of the details from the call. This is exactly what is going to be available in the PDF of the work program. So what they do here now is they break down the work program per calls, and this is just the information for this particular call. Okay. So let's go back to the slides. All right. So as I mentioned, the programs are different. They have different objectives. They may have similar rules to Horizon Europe, but application forms in general, they may differ in format. Some of them may be single stage and some may be two stage. So a two-stage application is when you submit first on a first deadline. You submit 10 pages of a project description. And if selected for funding, you are invited to the second stage where you end up submitting the full proposal text. If it's a single application, by the deadline, you just submit everything. Depending on the program, the page number is going to change. Some of them are going to be 30, some of them are going to be 50, and so on. The number of forms are also required, can be different. In standard Horizon Europe, you usually have Part B to submit, which is your project description. Part A is an admin form. Part B is the project description, but if you're talking, for example, in a project that's around health that requires a clinical trial, for example, you need to submit annexes related to the description of the clinical trial. You also need, given the different programs, consortium composition may be different. So for a given call or program, you may be allowed to submit as a single entity, or you will have to join in a consortium, and then there might be minimum and maximum numbers of partners. Funding rates may also be different. Horizon Europe, for example, is one of the only ones that fund 100% of your eligible costs, whereas Digital Europe, Erasmus, they all have a co-funding mechanism. So they usually give you 50% or 60%. So again, the actual amount of funding that you will get for any given call will be described in the call text. Okay, so and some other programs may have specific requirements, such as mobility in the case of Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships, and doctoral networks. So the candidates, they need to be away from the country that they're moving into, but we'll discuss those in a little bit more details later. So this is Horizon Europe. So as I said, I'm going to focus on this because it's the key instrument. So Horizon Europe is divided into pillars. There's pillar 1 for excellent science. So here it's fellowships, doctoral programs, co-funds. European Research Council is a very prestigious scheme within Horizon Europe. If you manage to get yourself an ERC, this is an individual. You could potentially do synergy as well, so you can apply with somebody else. So there are different types of European Research Council grants. Depends on your stage in your career. So if you're early stage, if you're in the middle of your career, or if you're established professor with a very good track record of research. This is it. So if you get one ERC, universities are going to be fighting over you so that you can come to the university and bring the ERC money along. Okay, so the Marie Curie actions are the ones where the postdoctoral fellowships are, doctoral networks, staff exchanges, and so on. Research infrastructure obviously funds research infrastructure, and the important thing here is that these are bottom-up approaches. So you can write your own idea and submit it for funding to the European Commission. Okay. The second one, pillar 2, is around global challenges and industrial competitiveness. So this is the one that's a top-down approach. So the European Commission organizes calls for proposals based on the several hundreds of policies that they have and targets, obviously. For like net zero, reduction of carbons and, so on. So they are organized into clusters. So you have health, culture, civil security and for society, digital industry and space, climate, mobility, and food, agricultural, and the environment. So the calls are organized around those clusters. Joint Research Center is a type of program, not program, sorry, but like it's an area of the program that funds policy work. And pillar 3 is Innovative Europe. So this one funds ideas that are close to market or, solutions that you need to develop from a lower TRL all the way to a high TRL and then end up in the market. Here, it's a mix. You could apply as a consortium, but you could also apply as a single entity, but I'm going to discuss some of those in the coming slides. Last one, the one at the bottom, widening participation, is a set of calls. Obviously, anyone can participate, but it's a set of calls that ideally should be coordinated by a widening country. Widening country are countries in Horizon Europe that are considered to have low participation, low innovation, low participation in Horizon Europe. So these are calls to help them, increase their level of R&D. And you can participate in any single part of the pillars. Okay. Now, there are two things that you need to consider when you're applying. You need to be admissible. So this means that once you reach the admissibility, which obviously, and the eligibility, it means that the European Commission is going to accept your application and it's going to review it. Okay, so submission criteria needs to be complete, readable, accessible, printable, within the page limit, submitted via the portal. They don't accept submissions in any other form. You need to meet the eligibility criteria here on the right. The application needs to be completed, as in all of the forms delivered. If there's anything missing, you're out. Within the page limit and within the formatting that the European Commission requires, you cannot just move away from the formatting. And obviously, there's legal and ethical compliance. So there are questions around ethics and security that you need to answer as best as you can in the proposal document. In terms of eligibility, of course, if it's not a fellowship, for example, that you apply individually, but if you go on a consortium for example, a Pillar 2 call, you must include at least 3 independent legal entities from 3 different EU member states or Horizon associated countries. So what's an associated country? For EU member states, very clear, so European countries. Associated countries are countries that are not European, but they have signed an agreement with Horizon Europe, and it means that they can participate and draw down funds from the European Commission. Now, you need to have at least 3. But obviously 3 sometimes will not deliver on the challenges that the European Commission is requiring. So the number of partners in the consortium needs to be commensurate to your scope and to the size of the project. Okay. So some exceptions, as I mentioned, European Research Council, MSEA Co-Fund, European Innovation Council Accelerator. Those are calls that you can go for individually. Okay. Can other countries participate? Yes. So any country is eligible for participation in Horizon Europe, even the ones who have not associated to the program. So you could get, I don't know, Japan, you can get the United States. So any of the countries is eligible to participate. However, if they have not associated or are not member states, they will not be able to draw down any funds from the EU, with some exceptions. So for example, Some very low income countries like Bolivia, African countries, they can draw down automatically funds from the EU. So if a partner cannot draw down those funds, like for example, the United States, they can join in, but they need to bring in their own funding. Okay. In terms of types of actions or types of projects, let's put it this way, there are three main types of actions in European Commission Horizon Europe. First one is innovation action, which is, so these are projects that supports closer to market activities. So there's prototyping, testing, large-scale demonstration, market replication. And the funding rate here for this scheme is 70% for profit companies, so private companies, and non-private or non-for-profit companies get 100% of their costs. You can also apply for a research and innovation action. Again, the type of action is going to be in the call text. You are going to have those details as soon as you enter, for example, the portal where you see the details of the call. So research and innovation actions are early stage research and technology development and testing. So you're doing validation, applied research, very small scale prototyping. Everybody here gets 100%. Coordination and support actions. These are not research projects. Coordination and support actions are for dissemination, policy development, standards, best practice, networking, okay? Everybody involved in a CSA gets 100% of their funding rate, okay? This is just a workable example, for you to see. In terms of indirect costs for Horizon Europe, the indirect cost is 25%. It's a flat rate. I'm going to discuss that in the next slide. So this is just a workable example on, based on the funding rates that I just mentioned. In terms of the eligible costs, you have some categories. It's the standard categories that you get in a project. So you get personnel costs, letter A. You get subcontracting costs. These are activities that ideally should be done by the beneficiaries or within the project, or everybody who's in the project, signing a contract with the EU. But for some reason they can't, so they need to outsource a piece of the work. So that's the subcontracting cost. Purchase cost is the standard travel, subsistence, hotel, equipments, other goods, consumables for your project. And then you have special categories of projects. Some European projects allow you to do financial support to third parties, which essentially is kind of like an outsource system with the EU. So they want to reach more companies, they want to reach more businesses. So what they do is they say, okay, within this given call, there's 10 million for whoever gets the funding. There's 10 million that needs to be directed to financial support to third parties. Means that you will have to organize perhaps calls for proposals and so on, evaluate them and give them the money once they are selected. So they use basically outsourcing the work there for you and the financial support to third parties. There are other elements that you add in this other cost category. And then obviously there's the indirect cost. This is the overheads. This is the money that the university takes. So this is a flat rate of 25% of the eligible direct costs, except for volunteer costs, subcontracting, and financial support to third parties. So those costs, if included in the project, they are not considered in the calculation of the 25% overheads. Okay. Eligibility of cost, also very standard. On the left, they need to be actually incurred by the beneficiary or an associated partner. So if an associated partner joins a project, we're going to discuss this later, they can get their costs reimbursed, but no additional money. They need to be necessary for the implementation, reasonable and justified. They need to take place. They need to happen during the project. They need to be recorded in the beneficiaries' accounts properly and according to our own practices and comply with EU and national regulations. Ineligible cost is non-project related stuff. Fees, fines, penalties, any excessive and reckless expenditure, and any other cost that is already funded by another EU grant. So you cannot double fund, okay? Now, this is where it gets interesting. How do you participate in those projects? So you can be either a coordinator, a partner, or an associated partner. And there's a difference between all these three rules. So the coordinator is the one that leads the entire proposal development. So when the project is being, written, discussed, and you organize meetings with your consortium, if you're a partner, you're just going to get the invite and you participate. Coordinator needs to actually organize all of this. They are the main point of contact with the European Commission whilst the project is signed. They are the ones who submit the projects in the EU portal. They distribute the funds to the partners once the money is awarded, and they sign the contract with the EU. So all the partners sign kind of like a declaration of honors, giving the supervisor kind of powers, coordinators some powers to sign it. Partners participate in the proposal development. So you are a partner, you bring your expertise. So the coordinator needs your expertise to write the proposal. So you are going to be assigned some writing pieces in the proposal document. And that's it. You are not going to coordinate anybody else. You're just responsible for your own. Okay. You can lead a work package. And then obviously, if you lead a work package, that means that you need to describe, you're responsible for writing that work package. And that work package has other tasks that are done by other partners. So that would be the minimum coordination that you would do there. So for example, the coordinator would probably ask you, I want you to handle this work package. So meet with your, the people participating in this work package and, provide the content. So these partners signs the agreement. So these people sign agreements with the EU. They held accountable legally and financially. An associated partner does not sign agreement. They are added to the proposal in the portal. Okay, so they get that, the visibility, but they do not sign any agreement. They don't have any legal or financial responsibility. They don't receive funds directly from the EU, but they can get their costs reimbursed by another project partner. They could do stuff like deliver a training. They could host a secondment, entirely up to the scope of your project. Now, how do you form a consortium when if you've decided to participate? If you're the coordinator, you're the one who is going to basically go out and look for partners. Okay. So the coordinator usually outlines a high-level idea of the project, carefully addressing each element of the call text. The call text is going to indicate some mandatory expertise and participants. So they could say for this project is essential the participation of social sciences. It's essential that you include members of the community. Depending on the project, they could be a bit more specific than this. If it's a policy project, you need to add a policy expert and so on. Okay. The size of the consortium, I've mentioned this already, commensurate with the proposed scope. There's a minimum of 3 entities. Searching for partners, there's lots of options that you can search for partners. So one of them is the call text in the EU portal. So I'm going to pause this again, and I'm going to go back to that page that we were. So here you have a call text, right? So these are all the details from the call, same thing that's going to be in the work program. Topic, destination, general conditions, and then you have here a link called Partner Search Announcements. You could go here, view and edit, and you can just, submit your expertise. If you're looking for if you're looking to be a partner, you can just go there and say, I have expertise X, Y, and Z. You're going to be listed under this call, so they're going to see you with interest, particularly on this call. And then you leave contact details, and then if somebody is coordinating a project, they're going to come here and they're going to see your expertise and they can contact you. Or you can just come here as a coordination, put your project idea and say, I need expertise X, Y, and Z. Okay. Go back again here. Okay. Another option for you to search for partners is CrowdHelix. Everybody here in TU Dublin has access to CrowdHelix using the TU Dublin email addresses. So CrowdHelix is an Irish platform for matchmaking on European calls and finding, building your consortium, essentially. So you go onto the platform, provide details of the calls, provide details of the project, high-level idea, and the type of expertise that you are looking for. You can also search for partners in previous projects in that related area. Your own network of contacts, your own network of professionals. The Research Center network, so ADAPT Center network, there's health working groups, there's several working groups within ADAPT and, experienced PIs and academics that have their networks and they could potentially make introductions. Attending conferences, and then obviously EU Info Day. So the European Commission organizes events where they provide details on each of the calls that they are going to launch. And they also provide a matchmaking platform that you can just go and pitch your idea and try and find partners. Everybody participates. Not everybody pitches an idea. Lots of people pitch their expertise instead. So if you have a project idea and you're looking to coordinate, EU Info Days is the best place for you to find partners, because if you pitch an idea, people are going to be contacting you like crazy to try and join your project. Okay. NCP, that's the national contact point. So European Commission indicates somebody in a country, in any European country, and that person is responsible for disseminating EU opportunities and details on the calls. Cordis is a platform, European platform of currently funded projects. So if you have a project that is funded by Horizon Europe, this project will have a profile or a fact sheet and public deliverables listed on Cordis. Okay. Remember that when you're forming consortia, you need to have partners from different sectors. So only academia doesn't fly, it doesn't look good. So it needs to be a mix of academia, industry, NGOs, social, whatever type of, other type of company. And they need to be geographically spread across Europe. Okay. So if you have, for example, 40% of the project partners are from one country, that kind of tends to raise a little bit of a flag there. Okay. So you need to have a geographical spread. Now, upcoming calls. Horizon Europe is near the end. Okay. The European Commission, they usually come up with we call it framework program. So they usually come up with a framework program that's a block of 6 years, six or 7 years. Horizon Europe started in 2021, and it's near the end. So the last work program, the last set of calls that we're going to see in Horizon Europe is the program for 2025. Okay. After the 2025 program, there's going to be a successor program. It's going to be another big thing. It's the framework 10 or 11. So I don't know if it's still going to be called Horizon Europe. We never know. They usually change their names. So the deadlines, the program for 2025 is still not published. It's not available yet online. We have the drafts. They will be published around May 2025, with deadlines starting from June to April 2026, depending on the call. Okay. So great timing to prepare for any given call. Ideally, 6 months would allow for a competitive application to be created. 2 months. Yes, it's possible, but with the actual quality, probably not. Info sessions and matchmaking events, even though the program is not launched and published yet, they are already being organized. Okay, and you can sign up to them. There's a slide on the upcoming events. So here are just some details of Horizon Europe calls. I remember because I asked in the registration some tentative, research topics that you're currently working on, and I remember seeing somebody who wrote something on manufacturing or supply chain. So there's one on supply chain, but it's related to batteries and energy. Oops, sorry, batteries and energy. There's another one for innovative manufacturing of wind energy technologies, though. There is another one for user-driven application of Gen AI models in healthcare. There's evolution of culture in virtual worlds and balance in the fight against disinformation. So some of the topics, once you start looking at the program, the topics that they fund are usually quite modern. Let's put it this way, up to date and very relevant for the current period that we're in. So there's lots of calls at the moment in the upcoming program around border management, around travel documents, around misinformation and disinformation, around democracy, gender violence. So those very relevant topics that we're seeing on the news at the moment. So this is just a snapshot. There are so many more calls coming down the line. So the type there is, what we discussed, innovation action, research and innovation action. So that gives you an indication of funding rate. Obviously for us, for public service, it's always, public institutions, always 100%. These are single stages. The openings on 10th of June, closing on 13th of November. The budget for the first call, for example, is 20 million. They are expecting, so, and this is from the actual call text. The call text says, for whatever it is that we've described here in terms of expected outcomes and impact, we think that 4 million is enough. Okay, so that's the expected EU budget. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you have to go for either 4 or 5 or even 3. You can go for whatever number that makes sense for your scope. Okay, so that means that if you need a little bit more money, that's no problem. You can ask. Okay, and then obviously you'll be evaluated. If you have a very good score, they will give you the money. Okay, so for this particular call, the first one, they're expecting to fund 5 projects, and at the end of the project, your project should have a TRL 6 to 7. Okay, so all those details are always available in the call text, plus obviously a very long description of the expected outcome, impact, any scope, any other details on participants. Okay. Now, moving on from that, let's talk about the ADAPT Center. So ADAPT is a research center. We're currently on our second phase, going to the end as well. So ADAPT ends in 2026, and there's going to be, a new center coming. So ADAPT is a world-leading research center on AI and digital content technology. The center is coordinated by Trinity College. That's where the biggest office is, and co-hosted by DCU, UCD, TU Dublin, Maynooth, MTU, Technological University of the Shannon, and University of Galway. Okay. Currently, the center pioneered on new human-centric AI technologies, including NLP, data analytics, human-computer interaction, data governance, ethics for digital content. And as you've seen, we have people working on these areas and applied to health, applied to democracy, and so on. So there is scope for people, that are not exactly computer scientists to actually be in the center. So this is a bit more details on, the actual research topics that we have within the center. I'm not going to go into details. You'll get the slides here. If you are in any shape or form linked to any of these areas, you could potentially be affiliated with the ADAPT Center. All these topics that I've mentioned here, they're organized into 3 strands. So we have digitally enhanced engagement, transparent digital governance, and digital content transformation. So we have our PIs are allocated in those strands. These strands have challenges, and PIs leading those challenges and trying to answer those challenges to Research Ireland. Okay. Complementary to those strands, we have cross-strand research activity, and we have special interest groups, and we also have special working groups as well, like I did mention the working group on health. Okay. And that's, again, a group of PIs and researchers presenting the research that they're doing, discussing, collaborating, and creating new ideas. In terms of the operations team in the center, we have a center that is supported by industry and commercialization. So all around industry projects that are funded by companies, Facebook, Meta, there is a team that actually helps you. This team also helps with spin-out companies. So if you're looking to move from academia to industry, to an industry setting, or maybe, I don't know, create a startup, this is the team that's going to help you set it up, okay, and build it up. We have research integration support. So that's a team that helps the integration of all these 3 strands and, organizing research events. We have HR and finance, education and public engagement. So this is a team that actually connects the research team with the public and, communicates, educates about AI. They can be involved in supporting you, for example, if any given project that you're working on has any co-creation element that you need a society to, jump in and help you in the design. This is the team that's going to help you reach out to those audiences. We have a team that does the data reporting for Research Ireland. There's a team on communications and marketing, and they also, besides doing the communications and marketing for the center, they help the researchers with communications and marketing for their own project. Okay. Tech Ops, so that's the IT team in the project. So everything that you might need in terms of servers and so on, IT support and infrastructure, that's available through the team. And then research development, that's the team that I am in. That's the team that does the pre-award and the post-award, and we're going to go into a bit more detail about this team now. So our team provides support on pre and post-award. We do strategic planning and horizon scanning. So we, scan the entire environment. We try to match the calls with your research interest and your research topics, and we help you plan to actually, put those consortia together, develop your idea, get a consortium in place, write the project, and submit it to the European Commission. So we do some drafting, reviews and approvals, institutional approvals. So since we're talking to you Dublin, pure, right? So if you need any pure approval, either you submit it yourself, but if you can't do it, you can send it over to me and I can submit it on your behalf. Training and coaching on all elements related to Horizon Europe and research funding, and then obviously international matchmaking, networking opportunities. Okay. In terms of the model, we have a model that works across the entire environment of projects, which means strategizing the project. Like I said, contacting the NCP, doing partner search, funding calls. Then moving on to pre-award, we help you actually design the project, institutional approvals, budgeting, and then post-award. When it goes to post-award, we have a team, it's very competent and experienced team in management of Horizon Europe projects. So that's the team. Once, for example, we submit it and it gets funded, it goes over to that team so that they can actually manage. And the good thing is that there is a cycle there, both teams, both pre and post award. We meet on a regular basis. There's a back and forth of information. Pre-award team feeding into the post-award, which feeds into the pre-award, as in this didn't work, there's too many deliverables in 1 month, in a given month, and so on. So we work together to create a much smoother project experience, both on the pre and the post-award. Okay. Upcoming info sessions, these are the ones that I have mentioned before. So cluster 1 is everything related to health, from studying a disease, pandemic preparedness. There's a lot of pandemic preparedness in cluster 1, and there is one destination, it's the impact, it's just the name that the European Commission uses. There is another one for tools. So the tools for the likes of AI, if you're doing, an agent for translation into health research, that was actually one of the research that I saw this morning. There is a call exactly on that under the health work program. So this is a matchmaking event. The first one is a matchmaking event with Canadian partners, because Canada has signed an agreement with Horizon Europe, so they can participate. And they're doing an event now to first, at the start of the event, they're going to describe, this is usually how Horizon Europe info sessions work. They first start describing the calls. So there's a project officer, an European officer. He just sits there and talks about the call. So he has a set of calls and he talks about the outcomes that they are expecting. And then there's an opening session there for questions on a given call. So it's very important for you, if you're planning on going to, any Horizon Europe calls, attend these events, because that's how they usually do it. They tell you what the call is all about. You have an opportunity to ask questions, and then you move on to a matchmaking exercise, meaning if you have a project, you pitch your idea. If you don't, you can pitch your expertise. So there's one for cluster 2. There's cluster 1, 2, 6, and 4. Those are the ones currently planned. Some of them require registration. Some of them just click the link and hit the button on the day, and you don't need to register. In terms of training, there is a Pathways to Funding training. Pathways to Funding is it's an initiative between ADAPT, Connect, Trinity Long Run Hub, and Amber. So those are 4 research centers. And the R&D research and development teams in all these 3 centers, we got together. We've created the Pathways to Funding program, and we give training to early stage researchers on any aspects of Horizon Europe. There was a session on how to get involved with Horizon Europe, I think it was last month. And the next session is this Friday, the 21st at 11:30. On how to write communication, dissemination, and exploitation plans. That's section 2 of Horizon Europe. Training is online, but there's also a possibility to do it in person in the events taking place in Trinity, and I'm actually the one presenting it. That is it for me. So if you'd like to know more about the center, please contact me. Here are my 2 emails. I am based in TU Dublin, so you can send me an email anytime. Be happy to, arrange a meeting to discuss. So that's me. That's the presentations. Do you have any doubts? Questions? Thanks, Roshi.
Can I just say, Paolo, thank you so much for presenting that. That was absolutely excellent and really, really incredibly useful, I think, for anyone who's thinking about going for any of this funding. Maybe I'll just kick it off with a brief question. What advice would you give to somebody who is looking at this afternoon, and they may be in the early stage to medium stage researcher category? They haven't been involved in a funding application before, and they're not quite sure exactly where to start. So what advice would you give to somebody like that?
So wait a minute. Are we talking a lecturer, assistant professor in the university, or are we talking PhD and postdoc?
Yeah, I think maybe both, actually. Maybe with a focus on somebody who is faculty, maybe a lecturer, assistant professor, that kind of level.
No.
But also maybe postdoc as well, if there's a difference there. Do you think?
Okay, no problem. I'll discuss both. So for postdocs, basically, the slides I was mentioning, pillar 1, 2, and 3, right? Usually when you're a postdoc, you have a limited contract, right? So it's a 2-year contract. Universities don't normally allow postdocs to lead applications in Horizon Europe Pillar 2, exactly because of that. So a postdoc could get involved in a Pillar 2. For example, let's just say, PJ, I'm going to use you as an example, okay? So you have your postdoc, they are interested in a given call, you're the supervisor, so you could be the lead PI in the application because you have permanent contract in the university. And then you work with the postdoc, you write the application with the postdoc, and we budget for the postdoc to continue. So we add a budget for the salary of the postdoc. So we're basically essentially asking for another postdoc. So that's a way for them to get involved, right? The other element for postdoc is a fellowship. So Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships, they can get involved. The difference is that if you're talking Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships, there's 2 types, and there is a mobility criteria. So for postdoctoral fellowships, you cannot have lived or worked or studied in the country that you want to apply for more than 12 months in the 3 years prior to the deadline. So if you've been here in Ireland for more than 12 months, you're not eligible for a standard fellowship. So they cannot stay here in Ireland. They are eligible for a standard fellowship in another country. So but they have to go away. So they need to contact another university. Or they could go for a global fellowship, right? Which means they need to move away from Ireland for up to 2 years and then come back to Ireland for another year. That's a possibility for the postdocs, one of the possibilities for postdocs. Now, for early stage academics in TU Dublin, right? If you are bold enough and would like to coordinate, we are here to help. So come and talk to us, right? Come and talk to us. We're going to help you organize your ideas. We're going to guide you through the system, the European system and how it works and how to find partners and all the support that I described in the presentation. But if you're not feeling that bold, one thing that you can do, to start getting involved in these projects is, first, you could join as a partner, leading a work package, a very small contribution, okay? Or you could find somebody more experienced in TU Dublin or in another university that is, either interested in the same idea as you. They could coordinate because you're maybe less experienced. And then you kind of shadow that PI, and obviously you'd be involved in the proposal as a partner. Okay. Again, joining as a partner, so less responsibility, and they start getting the hang of the, how European projects actually work. But both options are totally possible, and there's support available for both opportunities, either coordinator or a partner.
Thank you, Paolo. Excellent. We can invite more questions. If anybody has a question, you can just jump in, or you can stick up your hand.
Yeah.
Nicholas, yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, Paolo.
Hello.
Very interesting presentation. Because it's very helpful. I was fortunate enough for someone to share with me one of the draft proposals for the upcoming round, and I wanted to ask, based on your experience, or maybe if PJ's as well, do you think that these documents change a lot since when the applications come out, or can we securely contact people about potential engagements based on the information we have from these draft documents?
So the draft documents, what we have heard from national contact points in some events is that they are basically finalized, right? We still have a watermark that says draft because they're just not published yet. There might be, I'm not going to say that there is not going to be at all any changes, or there might be some changes. But in my opinion, at this point in the game, the changes might be maybe the deadline, maybe, some funding might increase or decrease, but I don't think at this stage they're going to cut to include or remove any given calls. It's too late already. It's time to publish the programs.
It's brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Hi, Paolo. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Hello. Hi, Annie. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Has been a few years now. I remember that
Oh yeah, I remember.
When I started my PhD and I went to the ADAPT, the very first day I was in one of the hot desks, and the person who was beside me, it was Paolo, and you were starting as well. So nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
I just wanted to ask you about, you mentioned something about the single stage and the second stage. So it means that in the single stage, I don't have to write the full length of the document?
No, exactly. So there are guidelines for all of this, and there are templates for all of this. You're just not going to come up with a template, a 10-page template and just submit it. So a standard application form in Horizon Europe is be 30 pages, 34 pages, and it's usually divided into excellence, impact, and implementation. Okay. When you're writing a two-stage proposal, so the first document that you write should be 10 pages long, and it should include section 1 and the first section of section 2.
The first section, section 2. But
yeah,
I had to...
exactly.
Okay, in my case, I very much like what Patrick was saying. I'm a postdoc. I don't have experience with funding, but I have some research experience. So I guess I had to do this very close with my PI because I don't really have a clue.
Exactly. So you need to go to your PI and then say, okay, I'm interested in this call. Could we, work on this? Obviously, you and your PI are going to discuss your idea. Again, if you decide to go as coordinator, there's a bit more work. You and your PI have to develop an idea and then go looking for partners, and we can help with that. But we can also try and find a project for you to join.
Okay, is it okay to write 2 applications or 3 applications? Because in case of you get rejected, so 1 of 3, maybe you'll get something.
So the thing is, when you're applying for this is the tricky part, right? So when you're applying for a project, when you're applying for a call under Pillar 1, you can apply under European rule. There's no problem. You can apply for as many calls as you want. What you probably can't do is you or me, Paolo or PJ, let's say you want to go for a given call in Pillar 2, and then you submit with a consortium, and then you submit for the same call with another consortium. That's probably not allowed. If you have, and the problem with postdocs, you need to understand the following, that fellowship. So for example, if you decide to apply for a Mary Curie postdoctoral fellowship and you get it, postdoctoral fellowships are 100% time commitment. So you cannot be involved in another pillar 2. Whereas pillar 2, it's not exactly. So for example, we could submit 2 different projects, one with Patrick, the other one with Roshin, and you could be the postdoc for both of them. And I could charge 50% of your time to Patrick and 50% of your time to Roshin's project. That's totally possible. Okay?
Okay.
So
I see.
that's
Well,
no problem at all. Okay?
Thank you.
Where that could become difficult is if the practitioner and the
Any other questions?
as a required button is pressed.
Maybe I'll jump in, Paolo. There's still time for more questions, but I'll just jump in when we have a moment of silence here. I always think a good strategy is to work with people that are more experienced and who've done this before with a record of success. Because coordinating one of these projects, as you said, I think a few times is quite a big ask. And if you haven't got direct experience of this, it can be a little bit overwhelming, I would say. So what are your strategies? I know you've covered a lot of this in the talk, but if I was an early stage researcher who was really interested in doing this, and I didn't know where to start, and I wanted to get involved, and I wanted to find maybe my own little space in a larger consortium where I could contribute something, get myself maybe in my own name a few €100,000. What would you suggest about how I should go about doing that?
Is that just me? I can't hear you, Paolo. Patrick, Paige, can you hear him?
No.
No.
Oh, you're back, Paolo. Yeah. We couldn't hear the first bit of that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, what I was going to say is first come and talk to us, right? We need to check your expertise, check if you have any call in mind. If you don't have any call in mind, we'll need to check your expertise and scan the environment. If you already have a call in mind, then at least let us know, for example, what's your contribution? What do you see yourself doing in this project? Okay. And then obviously another thing that we can do is start, trying to attend these events, see if there's anybody who is pitching an idea for the call that you're interested in. Check CrowdHelix or even your own network. If you know somebody who is a big player and is interested in whatever European calls, you could contact the person. If you have, if they're actually in your network and you know them, contact them and ask them, are you interested? Can we arrange something? I was actually talking to somebody the other day that they said that they got invited to coordinate. The coordinator didn't want to coordinate anymore. So that is also something that happens. It's very common to happen for you to get invited to coordinate, where obviously you don't want to coordinate and then you can participate instead. But I would say just start the conversation, right? Start the conversation, start looking into the programs, try and find something that's relevant to your research expertise so that we can start, checking the environment, see who is actually doing anything in the area.
Thank you, Paolo.
Welcome.
Does anybody else have a question? We'll aim to finish by 3 o'clock if that's okay with everybody. So there's a chance for 1 or 2 more questions, maybe, if anybody has anything to ask.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, sorry for probably asking a question. Maybe it's losing one way, but in terms of business research, as it relates to STEM, generally speaking, just kind of curious as to if there are certain emphases that would go down better, I suppose, in terms of the applications that would go in, and if that's just more on entrepreneurship, innovation, or what the emphasis should typically be, or is there an emphasis?
You mean emphasis in either commercializing or?
Yeah, because there are probably so many things that are so close to market that just make it a lot more difficult to have included as part of the application.
So as part of the application, and it doesn't matter where you're in, right, in any of the pillars, First of all, let me talk about pillar 3 first. Pillar 3 is the one that has a lot of, so most of the funding it's focused on the business. It's focused on the solution and bringing the solution to the market. So for that pillar, there is a strong element of exploitation, commercialization of your research, okay? However, in any pillar, any cluster, doesn't matter which cluster you're talking about, or a standard application in Horizon Europe asks you to provide the excellence. So that's essentially the science, state of the art, impact, and then the impact is divided into, additional impacts, additional, impact from the call text, societal impact, and all that. And then there's another section within section 2, which is a plan for commercialization, for exploitation, communication, and dissemination of your research proposal. Okay, so you have to provide details on how you're going to exploit. And the exploitation doesn't necessarily have to be commercial. You can use research results for training. You can, it doesn't necessarily need to be commercial, a commercial exploitation. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to market. Your solution may not be ready. Your solution may be ready for a little bit more work before it goes into market. And that's the strategy you design in your project. So you need to provide some level of detail for exploitation, but it doesn't necessarily need to be commercial.
Thanks, Bob.
Hi, Paolo. There's a question in the chat. Can I read that out to you?
Yes, please.
It's from Bahara, and she's saying, thanks for the really informative session. She's a new lecturer at TU Dublin and is interested in the Marie Curie actions. She'd like to apply for funding and would appreciate guidance on how to get started. And she's wondering if you can provide information on eligibility, the application process, and any available support at TU Dublin.
Okay. So Marie Curie, I am assuming you are talking about the postdoctoral fellowships, right?
Marie Curie actions, is that the?
Yeah, no. It's because within the Marie Curie, there's doctoral programs, there's co-funds, there's ERC,
Postdoc,
there's a lot of postdoc fellowships. Okay, so for the postdoc fellowships, so the eligibility says that, first of all, postdoctoral fellowship funds any area of research. So you could be health, you could be IT, you could be social sciences, doesn't matter. The deadline is, Monica, correct me if I'm wrong, is it September this year?
10th of September.
Yeah. September. There you go. Thank you. So September this year, you need to write a 10-page application for a postdoctoral fellowship. Same elements, excellence, impact, and implementation, but it's only 10 pages long. And you apply with a institution, right? So in this case, TU Dublin or somewhere else. If you have been here in TU Dublin or in Ireland, in Dublin, for more than 1 year, you are not eligible to apply for a standard fellowship, meaning yourself, TU Dublin, you win the money, stay in TU Dublin, okay? So a standard fellowship, you would need to move away. You will need to go to a country where you haven't been for more than 12 months, okay? So you could go to Spain, you can go to the UK, UK is eligible, you can go anywhere you want, okay? If you want to apply with your current PI, with your current supervisor here in TU Dublin, and you have been here for more than 12 months, you are eligible for a global fellowship. A global fellowship means that you have to go away for up to 2 years, and then you come back for another year to bring this knowledge over to TU Dublin. Okay? And for this, it doesn't matter if you have been here for more than a year. Okay? And you need to have a PhD for up to 8 years. If you have not had a PhD, at least successfully defended your viva by the call deadline.
Could I just say to Bahara, you can come and have a talk to me. I've worked very closely with Monica on the Marie Curie actions. So if you want to, you're welcome to come and have a chat with me. I know a good bit about that, and we can always ask Monica as well, who correct me if I'm wrong, Monica, you coordinate this entire scheme for ADAPT. That's correct, isn't it?
So we coordinate together the research development team. So Paolo does as well, and so do some of our other colleagues. But ADAPT have a structured supportive program for this scheme where we work with the supervisors and potential applicants to help them develop a proposal for the postdoctoral fellowships, we have additional supports available for the doctoral networks as well. And we're working on developing something similar for the ERCs, but that's going to be down the line.
That's perfect.
And
Thanks.
if I'm not mistaken, TU Dublin, I think the TU Dublin call closed on the 10, like last Monday. But I think TU Dublin is, the research office here in TU Dublin is doing something similar to what we're doing. So trying to push the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships and give training to the applicants on how to write those applications. Okay.
Perfect. We're probably coming to an end at this point, but I think we can offer one last opportunity for anybody to jump in with a question who may have a lingering question. So it's your last chance if you want to jump in. I sort of feel like an auctioneer here now. Sort of, I'm tempted to say going, gone, and bang a hammer or something. So I think at this point we will say thank you very much to Paolo and to Monica as well. That was absolutely fantastic, Paolo, and I'm sure that you're probably going to have a lot of emails as a result of this. Because that was just so useful and raised so much potential for people listening to the talk. So thank you again, Paolo. I'll invite anyone maybe to contact Paolo directly. You can also give me a shout or give Roisin a shout, and we can have a chat. We're very, very keen to promote this and get people applying for funding. And you know, even if you're not expecting to be successful the first time, it's a great experience to apply for these funding calls. You learn so much. I'm speaking as somebody who's done this and won a few and lost a few, and you know that's sort of the way it goes. So I would encourage everybody to follow up, to ask questions, to explore more about this. And just to get in there and to just do it, I think would be my advice. So again, thank you very much, Paolo. Very, very much appreciated. We'll certainly get you back for another talk soon enough. Thank you, Monica. I think we might be able to get you back for a specific talk on Marie Curie. And at that, we'll finish up.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you. Take care.
Nice. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.